hygiene practice and control of vector of transmission are inadequate. So protozoal infection are they are mostly common where there is poor sanitary condition, poor hygiene practices, and where the control of vector transmission are very inadequate. So protozoal diseases may be caused by Entamoeba histolytica, Giardia, etc. So these are the protozoal diseases which may affect the person. So coming to chemotherapy for amoebiasis. So amoebiasis, it is also a protozoal disease. Okay, so amoebiasis are also called as amoebic dysentery. It is a protozoal infection and it is mainly infection of intestinal tract which is caused by Entamoeba histolytica. So whenever patient is having amoebiasis with dysentery, patient may be having the complaint of abdominal pain, diarrhea, or loose stool. Usually it is mixed with mucus and blood. So whenever diarrhea is mixed with mucus and blood, it is known as dysentery. So usually the cause of dysentery is amoebiasis, which is caused by Entamoeba histolytica. So patient may be having complaint of abdominal cramps. Patient may have fever, vomiting associated with passing loose stool. Usually it is mixed with mucus and blood. So amoebiasis, it is usually transmitted through the fecal-oral route. So it is mainly due to improper hygiene. So it is the main route of infection is the fecal-oral route. And the disease can be either acute or it may be chronic, with the patient showing varying degree of illness. Like some patient may have no symptoms at all, or some patient may have mild diarrhea, and some patient may have fulminating dysentery, leading to dehydration, like I had already discussed during the classes of diarrhea. So whenever there is having fulminating dysentery, patient may have severe dehydration, patient may have cardiovascular collapse, patient may go into the state of shock as well. And the diagnosis is usually established by isolating Entamoeba histolytica from the fresh fishes. So to diagnose the cause of dysentery, we usually do routine stool microscopic examination, and while doing routine microscopic stool examination, we can see the causative organism. If it is due to Entamoeba histolytica, we can see either cyst of the Entamoeba histolytica in the stool sample, and if the dysentery is due to some bacterial infection, we can see plenty of pus in the stool, and sometimes we can see cyst of Entamoeba histolytica. So mainly the diagnosis is done by routine microscopic examination of the stool, where we can see Entamoeba histolytica in the stool sample. Coming to life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica, usually it exists in two forms. One is cyst form and another is a tropozoite form of the Entamoeba histolytica. So cyst, they usually survive outside the body and they transforms to tropozoite. And tropozoites, these are the non-infective form, invasive form, and they do not persist outside the body, but they can be reproduced. And cysts ingested through fecal-oral route, they pass into the intestinal lumen, whereby tropozoites are liberated. So wherever the cyst they enter into the lumen of the intestine, they are there. Then tropozoites are liberated in large amount, and the tropozoites they multiply in the lumen of the intestine, and they either invade the large intestine, or sometimes they can also cause ulcer in the mucosa of the large intestine. And the tropozoites within the intestine are then slowly carried towards the rectum, where they return to cyst form and they are excreted outside the body in the form of cyst. So mainly the cysts are excreted outside, and with the same cycle, cysts are ingested through the fecal-oral route, and they enter into the intestine, and then in the intestine, tropozoites are liberated. Tropozoites are multiply inside the intestine, and they invade the mucosa, or sometimes they form the ulcer in the intestinal mucosa, and then they are slowly carried towards the rectum, and from the rectum they are released outside in the form of cyst. And the large number of tropocytes within the colon passes into the bloodstream. So whenever there is large amount of tropocyte in the colon, they will go into the bloodstream, and through the portal vein they reach into the liver, and when they enter into the liver they cause amoebic liver abscess. Okay, so patient may be having very high grade of fever. During amoebic liver abscess, patient may have complaint of right hypochondrial pain, and on physical examination we can see uh, hepatomegaly, we can see tender in the right hypochondrium, and when it reaches it, and it forms the abscess in the liver. And organs like lungs, spleen, kidney, and brain are usually rarely involved in the extraintestinal amoebiasis. So this organism, it can cause, sometimes it can cause asymptomatic intestinal infection. It may cause mild to moderate colitis. It may cause severe intestinal infection, that is dysentery. It may also cause liver abscess, that is amoebic liver abscess, and sometimes it may cause other types of intestinal infections. So here is the picture of life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica. So what happens? The patient will ingest the cyst through the fecal-oral route. So ingestion of cyst, it will go into the stomach and then into the ileum, and then it is in the ileum there is formation of tropocytes. Okay, so these tropocytes, they penetrate into the intestinal wall, and so when it penetrates the intestinal wall, and then it multiplies. So tropocytes will be multiplied within the colon, and they may enter into the liver, creating the systemic invasion, and it may cause amoebic liver abscess, and then tropocyte formation of tropocyte, and there will be cyst formation. Okay, and then the cyst will come out through the rectum and expelled in the form of cysts, and the cysts are discarded within the feces. So this cycle will keep on repeating. So therapeutic agent for amoebiasis are classified as, so the drugs which are used for the treatment of amoebiasis are classified as a luminal amoebicide, or systemic amoebicide, or mixed amoebicide, according to their site of action. So for example, luminal amoebicide, it acts on the parasite in the lumen of the bowel. So it will act on the parasite which is present in the lumen of the bowel, whereas systemic amoebicides are effective against amoebiasis in the intestinal wall or amoebiasis present in the liver. So these are the example of systemic amoebicide, whereas mixed amoebicides are effective against both the luminal as well as systemic form of the disease, although luminal concentration are too low for single drug treatment. So whenever we are using luminal amoebicide, it may not be effective for total cure of the parasite. So it may be given in combination with other systemic or mixed amoebicide, other amoebicides. So classification of anti-amoebic drugs. So number one is tissue amoebicides. So these are the drugs which will act on the organism which are present in the tissues of the human body. For intestinal and extra-intestinal amoebiasis, these are the drugs. So number one is nitroimidazole. So it includes metronidazole, tinidazole, ornidazole, and secnidazole. Whereas alkaloids, it contains imetin and dihydroimetin. And coming to 4-aminoquinol, that is chloroquine. And for extra-intestinal amoebiasis, only chloroquine is used. So chloroquine, as we already know, it is a drug for treatment of malaria. So chloroquine can also be given for the treatment of amoebiasis. Those background sound I think is disturbing. Can you please mute it? Okay. So next is luminal amibicide. So in luminal amibicide, number one is amide group of drug, which contains diloxanate furet, nitazoxanide, and another is 8-hydroxyquinonol, which contains idoquinol, quinol, idochlorhydroxyquine, and antibiotics can be also be used as a luminal amibicide. Those are tetracycline and paromomycin. Now coming to metronidazole, it is the most important drug that is used in the treatment of amibicides. So these are the prototype nitroimidazole group of drug, and it is the drug of choice in the treatment of extraluminal amoebiasis. And so metronidazole, it is also a mixed type of amibicide. It can act in both luminal and intestinal, and it is highly effective against both anaerobic bacteria and several protozoa such as Entamoeba histolytica. It's effective against giardiasis, and it is also effective in the treatment of Trichomonas vaginalis. And it kills the trophozoite, but it has no action on the cyst. So metronidazole, it is only it is only capable of killing the trophozoites, but it doesn't kill the cyst of Entamoeba histolytica. So if we do routine microscopic examination of the stool, and if you see the cyst in the stool, then if you are giving metronidazole alone will not work. So you have to add diloxanide furet along with metronidazole so that it can be able to kill the cyst of Entamoeba histolytica. So metronidazole, it is trophozoite but not cyst of Entamoeba histolytica, and it is effectively eradicates intestinal as well as extraintestinal tissue infections. Coming to mechanism of action. So metronidazole, it when it is taken, it enters inside the microorganism, that is protozoa, and it enters inside the microorganism, and the nitro group in the microorganism, it is reduced by ferredoxin and ferrosulfate protein, and it will nitro group of the organism is reduced by ferredoxin and ferrosulfate protein. So when it is reduced, it is changes into active metabolite. So nitro group is reduced and it is changed into active metabolite, that is highly reactive nitro radical. And so when it is changed into active metabolite, it will break and damage the DNA of the microorganism. So there will be breakage and damage on the DNA of the microorganism. So whenever there is damage to the DNA, there will be death of the organism, that is it will kill the trophozoites of the amoebiasis. So coming to pharmacokinetics, metronidazole, it is completely and rapidly absorbed after oral administration, and it is widely distributed in the body, and it attains the therapeutic concentration in vaginal secretion. It is concentrated in the semen, saliva, and CSF. So since it attains the concentration in the saliva, so whenever we take metronidazole, patient may be complaining of metallic taste. It is one of the most important adverse effect of metronidazole. So since it is concentrated in the vaginal secretion, semen, saliva, and CSF, and so when it is concentrated in saliva, patient will have metallic taste. Patient will complain as a having metallic taste or bitter taste in the mouth, and it is metabolized in the liver and excreted in the urine. Coming to adverse effect, in gastrointestinal tract, patient taking metronidazole may complain of anorexia, nausea, dry mouth, and patient may complain of metallic taste, and sometimes patient may complain of abdominal cramps also. And there may be allergic reaction like skin rashes or urticarial rashes, and patient may complain of dizziness, vertigo, confusion, irritability, convulsions, and ataxia. And when metronidazole is taken for prolonged duration, it may cause peripheral neuropathy and CNS side effects. And whenever metronidazole is given through IV injection, there may be chance of having thrombophlebitis of the injected veins if the solution is not well diluted. So whenever we give metronidazole, it has to be diluted properly. It has to be shaken well and it has to be diluted properly. Otherwise, patient may complain of thrombophlebitis of the injected veins. Coming to contraindication, so it is contraindicated in case of neurological disease because it may aggravate the CNS effects, and it is contraindicated in blood disorder, and it is absolutely contraindicated during first trimester of pregnancy because it may have teratogenic effect to the fetus. Now, coming to drug interaction, the most common drug interaction of metronidazole is disulfiram-like reaction. So, whenever we prescribe metronidazole to any patient, we have to advise patient not to take alcohol along with metronidazole, because if patient is taking alcohol along with metronidazole, patient may have disulfiram-like reaction. This is the most important drug interaction you should know. You may be asked during your viva, you may be asked during your MCQs also. So it may cause disulfiram like reaction when it is taken along with alcohol. So patient, if taken takes alcohol along with it, may have severe nausea and vomiting, abdominal cramps, headache. There may be flushing, and patient may also have the hypotension, and hence the patient are warned to avoid alcohol during treatment with metronidazole. And another interaction is it potentiates the anticoagulant effect of warfarin. So whenever anticoagulant drug are given, patient has to be avoided taking metronidazole because it will potentiate the anticoagulant effect, and there may be tendency of bleeding. And phenobarbital rifampicin may reduce its therapeutic effect, while cimetidine it will reduces the metronidazole metabolism. Now coming to uses, so metronidazole it is the drug of choice for all the form of amoebic infection. So it is given for the treatment of amoebiasis, and it is also important drug for the treatment of giardiasis, which is caused by Giardia lamblia. The effective dose is 400 milligram, which is given 3 times a day for 1 week, and it is also a drug of choice in case of Trichomonas vaginitis, and in case of Trichomonas vaginitis, metronidazole is given in the dose of 2 milligram as a single dose. And it can also be given for the treatment of anaerobic bacterial infection. Usually anaerobic bacterial infection, they occurs after colorectal surgery or any pelvis surgery, or it may also occurs during appendectomy. So we can give metronidazole for the treatment of anaerobic bacterial infection also. And for serious anaerobic bacterial infection, metronidazole is given through IV administration, and usually it is given in a dose of 15 milligram per kg, which is infused over 1 hour, and it is followed by 7.5 milligram per kg, and it is repeated every 6 hourly till oral therapy can be instituted. So in very serious cases, patient may not be able to take orally, or oral drug, its onset of action is little late, so it is usually given, we usually prefer giving IV administration. So usually it is given in a dose of 50 milligram during the first hour, and then it is given followed by 7.5 milligram per kg, and it is repeated every 6 hourly, and it is given every 6 hourly till patient is being able to take orally. And once patient is stabilized and patient can take orally, then metronidazole is given in the dose of 400 to 800 milligram 3 times a day. And it can also be given for the treatment of Pseudomonas infection causing Pseudomonas enterocolitis due to Clostridium difficile, and it is also given in case of acute necrotizing ulcerative gingivitis for dental patient when there is ulcerative gingivitis, necrotizing type of ulcerative gingivitis. So metronidazole is the drug of choice for ANA, and metronidazole it is also given for the treatment of H. pylori, gastritis or Helicobacter infection induced peptic ulcer. So for treatment of H. pylori infection, we can also give metronidazole along with other triple drug therapies. Now coming to tinidazole, it is also a nitroimidazole group of drug. So tinidazole, it is a second generation nitroimidazole that are similar to metronidazole. So mechanism of action, everything is similar to metronidazole, and it is equally efficacious to metronidazole, except that metabolism is slower in case of tinidazole, and T half is 12 hours, and it has longer duration of action. And metronidazole has simple dose schedule, so it is suited for single dose. So whenever we give metronidazole, usually metronidazole it is given 3 times a day, and the dose of metronidazole is usually 400 to 800 milligram. Usually it is given 3 times a day, whereas tinidazole is dose schedule is very easy, and usually it is given in a dose of 2 gram single dose. Okay, so if tinidazole comes in 100 milligram, then you can take 2 tablets. If it comes in 500 milligram, then you can take 4 tablets at once. So the dose is very it has simple dose schedule, and it is suited for single dose only. And it has higher cure rates in case of amoebiasis, and it is better tolerated, and incidence of side effect is low as compared to metronidazole, but mechanism of action is similar to metronidazole. And uses of tinidazole, it can be given for treatment of intestinal amoebiasis in a dose of 2 milligram OD for 3 to 6 days, whereas in case of amoebic liver abscess, it is usually given in a dose of 2 gram orally daily dose for 3 to 6 days. So in amoebic liver abscess, if the abscess is big, patient is having recurrent history of high fever, and if there is history of shock, etc., we give tinidazole. And if the patient is not subsided, if the patient condition is not improved, then we can also go for surgery in case of amoebic liver abscess to drain the abscess. And it can also be given for the treatment of trichomoniasis and giardiasis as 2 gram single oral dose, and it can be given for amoebic bacterial infection also. Prophylactically, 2 gram single oral dose is given before colorectal surgery or biliary surgery prophylactically to prevent the amoebic bacterial infection. And in therapeutic dose, it is given 2 gram followed by 0.5 gram BT oral for 5 days, and in severe case, intravenously tinidazole is preferred. And for H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori infection, tinidazole is given 500 milligram twice a day orally for 1 to 2 weeks in triple combination. So you might have already read about triple drug therapy in case of H. pylori infection. So we can give tinidazole along with amoxicillin, PPI, isn't it? So it can also be included for the treatment of Helicobacter pylori infection. Now coming to secnidazole, it is also a congener of metronidazole, and it has same efficacy and same potency as that of metronidazole, and it has rapid oral absorption, and metabolism is slower, and T half is 17 to 29 hours, and it can also be used for the treatment of amoebiasis, giardiasis, and trichomonas vaginitis, and adverse effects are similar to metronidazole. It also causes nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, and metallic taste, and sometimes with the history of dizziness, ataxia, etc. Now coming to another group, that is imatin group, which contains imatin and dihydroimatin. So these are effective against tissue trophozoites of Entamoeba histolytica. So they are given for the treatment of tissue trophocytes. And mechanism of action is they both act by protein synthesis in amoeba. So these are the protein synthesis inhibitor of the amoebiasis. So they will act by inhibiting the synthesis of protein. And these drugs are bitter in taste. It causes nausea and they may cause irritation. So it cannot be administered orally since it has bitter taste and it causes nausea. So it is usually preferred giving through the intramuscular route and only effective against tissue trophozoite. And these drugs are highly toxic and used only in patient not responding to metronidazole. So metronidazole is the drug of choice. If it doesn't treat the patient properly, then only it is imitin group of drugs are given since these are highly toxic, so they are usually kept as a reserve drug. Coming to adverse effect, it causes nausea, vomiting, muscles weakness and stiffness. It may cause allergic reaction like itching and skin rashes. And when it is given intramuscularly, it may cause lesion at the site of injection. Now coming to chloroquine. Basically, chloroquine, it is the drug of choice for the treatment of malaria. It is an anti-malarial drug, but it is also effective against the hepatic amoebiasis. And chloroquine, it is usually used in combination with metronidazole and along with diloxanide furet to prevent and treat the amoebic liver abscess. So in case of amoebic liver abscess, though metronidazole and diloxanide furet are given, we can also add chloroquine along with these two drugs for the treatment of amoebic liver abscess, and it is usually given through the oral route. And chloroquine, it is completely absorbed from gastrointestinal tract, but it gets concentrated in the liver, and it attains lower concentration in gut walls, hence only effective against the tissue amoebiasis. So this drug will be effective for the treatment of tissue amoebiasis. Mechanism of action. So what happens here? Chloroquine, they act by concentrating in the parasitic food vehicle. It will concentrate in the food vehicle of the parasite and it prevents the polymerization of hemoglobin breakdown product, that is heme to hemogen. So what happens normally, heme it is converted into the hemogen, but this chloroquine it will inhibit the conversion of heme into hemogen, and so when there is no conversion of heme into hemogen, this heme will act as a toxic product. Okay, so it will have toxicity and thus it will have its toxic effect into the parasite and it will kill the parasite. So it acts by concentrating in the parasitic food vacuole and it prevents the polymerization of hemoglobin breakdown product, that is heme into hemogen, and thus eliciting the parasite toxicity due to building up of free hemoglobin. So free heme. So there is no conversion of heme into hemogen, and this heme it is highly toxic to the parasite and it will kill the parasite. And adverse effect including pruritus. So whenever we take chloroquine, patient may complain of pruritus. There may be history of nausea, vomiting, anorexia, and abdominal pain. And there may be history of hemolysis in G6PD deficient patients. So chloroquine is contraindicated in case of G6PD deficient patient, and it may also cause impaired hearing, agranulocytosis. There may be history of alopecia and hypertension as well. Coming to amide group, that is diloxanide furet. So diloxanide furet, it is a synthetic compound. It doesn't have any antibacterial action, but it is highly effective as a luminal amebicide. So it is effective against the luminal amebicide. They directly kill the trophocyte, which are responsible for the production of cyst. Usually what happens, trophocyte in the intestinal lumen, it will convert into the cyst and cysts are released through the rectum into the feces. So diloxanide furet, it kills the trophocyte which are responsible for the production of cyst, amoebic cyst. And this diloxanide furet, it is given through the oral route, and it is split into the GI tract into diloxanide and furic acid. So when diloxanide furet is taken, it will be split into two form, that is diloxanide and another is the furic acid form. And the 90% of the diloxanide, it is absorbed in the gut, whereas the remaining 10% it will reaches into the large intestine. And since trophozoite, they are liberated, multiplied in the large intestine, so this remaining 10% it enters to the large intestine and they will kill the trophozoite over there. So basically what happens, whenever we take diloxanide fuel, it is split it into two forms, that is diloxanide and furic acid, and 90% of the diloxanide form will be absorbed and remaining 10% it goes into the large intestine and it will kill the trophozoite form of the amebicide. Sorry, amoebiasis. And it is considered as a drug of choice for asymptomatic luminal infection, and these drugs are used with tissue amebicide. Usually it is used along with metronidazole to treat the serious intestinal and extraintestinal infection. So whenever liroxanide furet is given alone, it may not be sufficient to treat the amebicide, amebiasis. So usually diloxanide furet it is given in combination with metronidazole. So whenever you see cyst of amoeba in the blood, stool sample, you can give metronidazole along with diloxanide furet. Usually it comes in the name of Metron DF as a trade name. You might have already taken, somebody might have taken during having diarrhea. uh, it usually come in the name of Metron DF, that means metronidazole plus diloxanide furet. And adverse effect is it cause flatulence, it may cause nausea, abdominal cramps, and sometimes there may be history of skin rashes also. And it is also not recommended in pregnancy. Now coming to another group of drug, that is 8-hydroxyquinolines. So it contains idaquinol. So idaquinol, it is a hallucinated hydroxyquinolone group of drug, and 90% of the drug is retained in the intestine and it is excreted through the feces, and remaining 10% they enter into the circulation and is excreted in the urine as a glucurinated metabolites. And half-life of idaquinol is 11 hours. And the exact mechanism of action of idaquinol for amoebiasis is not exactly known, and they were widely used in the past for treatment of amoebiasis, but it has been banned nowadays because of its various toxic effects. And these are effective against Entamoeba histolytica, giardiasis, trichomoniasis, and also effective against some bacterial as well as fungal infection. But clinically nowadays, the drug is not commonly used for treatment of amoebiasis. Coming to tetracycline, so as you already know, these are the antibiotics, and they indirectly reduce the proliferation of entamoeba in the colon. So they will reduce the proliferation of amoeba in the colon, and especially valuable in the chronic cases who have only the luminal cycle with little mucosal invasion. And these drugs have an adjuvant with luminal amebicide. Usually it is also given as an adjuvant drug for the treatment of amebicide. So it is usually given in combination with metronidazole also for the treatment of amoebic dysentery. And next is paromomycin. It is also an aminoglycoside group of antibiotic, and it is not significantly absorbed from gastrointestinal tract, but a small amount is absorbed, and usually it is excreted very slowly, and it is excreted unchanged in urine. And since it is an aminoglycoside group of antibiotic and it is a protein synthesis inhibitor, so it will inhibit the synthesis of protein by binding to the 16S RNA, and it induces the misreading of mRNA. So it is a protein synthesis.
म्याम स्लाइड ठ्याक्कै हजुरको बोलीसँग चाहिँ आएन
स्लाइड ब्याच भएको छैन बोलीसँग
टेट्रासाइक्लिनमै छ म्याम
हजुर अहिले आयो
आएन म्याम टेट्रासाइक्लिन छैन म्याम
सबैको सेम छ आएको छैन
यस म्याम
हो एकछिन ल अहिले आएको छ
छैन
आयो आएको छैन ओके अब 2-3 स्लाइड चाहिँ म भनिदिन्छु है अनि म एकजना कसैलाई पठाइदिन्छु ल स्लाइड अनि तिमीहरू सेयर गर ओके आयो
आइरहेको छ
okay so paramomycin okay so it is aminoglycoside antibiotic and this drug it is a protein synthesis inhibitor so it will inhibit the synthesis of protein and it binds to 16S rRNA and it causes misreading of the mRNA and it is used only as a luminal amibicide so parenteral paramomycin it is given intravenously and it is now used for treatment of visceral leishmaniasis. So paramomycin it is also been given for the treatment of leishmaniasis and as an adverse effect it sometimes causes abdominal distress and diarrhea. Now coming to giardiasis. So giardiasis it is also a protozoal infection which is usually caused by Giardia lamblia. So Giardia lamblia it is a flagellated protozoan and it usually infects children and adults and it is also transmitted through the fecal-oral route. So it is transmitted by oral fecal contamination. Okay, so we have to have the good hygiene practice for the prevention of giardiasis as well. And it invades the mucosa and it causes watery diarrhea with foul smelling stool and there may be history of gas and there may be history of abdominal cramps. So for the diagnosis of giardiasis also we do routine stool microscopic examination and after doing routine stool microscopic examination we can see whether it is diarrhea and dysentery whether it is due to bacterial infection or it may be either due to Giardia lamblia or it may be due to Intimiba histolytica and treatment is done accordingly. And the drugs useful for the treatment of giardiasis is also metronidazole. So it is usually given in the dose of 400 milligram 3 times a day, usually for 5 to 7 days, or it can also be given as a 2 gram daily for 3 days, or we can give tindazole in place of metronidazole that is 0.6 gram daily for 7 days, or it can be given as a 2 gram as a single dose, or we can also give secnidazole in a dose of 2 gram as a single dose. Usually single dose is more easier to take rather than taking 3 times a day for 5 to 7 days. So we usually prefer giving tinidazole as a 2 gram single dose. Next is nitazoxanide. It is also used for treatment of diarrhea as well as dysentery which is caused by Cryptosporidium parvum or Giardiasis lamblia or diarrhea caused by Intimiba histolytica, and dose is 500 milligram twice a day for 3 days. But clinically, in clinical practice, it is not commonly used. And coming to the drug for trichomoniasis, if the patient is having Trichomonas vaginalis infection, then we also prefer metronidazole, tindazole, secnidazole as a drug of choice. So Trichomonas vaginalis, it is a microaerophilic flagellated protozoan causing vulvovaginitis. So it infects the vulvovagina and causing vulvovaginitis. Patient may have history of lower abdominal pain. Patient may have history of whitish, foul smelling discharge. Patient may have history of pain. So, for the treatment of Trichomonas vaginalis, we can give metronidazole as in a dose of 400 milligram 3 times a day for 7 days, or it can be given as a 2-gram single dose. Or if we give tinidazole, it can be given 600 milligram daily for 7 days. Or if secnidazole is given, we can give 2-gram single dose. These are the drug of choice for the treatment of Trichomonas vaginalis. And for treatment of Trichomonas vaginalis, drugs are also given intravaginally. So the drug given intravaginally are dihydrohydroxyquine, which is given 200 milligram. So it is inserted intravaginally at the bedtime for 1 to 2 weeks. So a tablet can be, we can get a tablet of dihydrohydroxyquine. So the tablet is inserted through the plunger into the vagina, and it is kept inside the vagina during the night time, and it is given every day at the night time, and it is continued for about 1 to 2 weeks depending upon the condition of the patient. And quinino can be given 200 milligram inserted in the vagina every night for 1 to 3 weeks, or povidone iodine is given 400 milligram, which is inserted into the vagina daily at night for duration of 2 weeks. So these are the drugs that are given for the treatment of protozoal infection. So most common drug for the treatment of amoebiasis, giardiasis, trichomonas vaginalis is metronidazole. So before giving this drug, we have to see the routine microscopic examination of the stool, and we have to decide whether to give metronidazole alone or whether to give metronidazole along with combination with diloxanide furet. Because if we see cyst in the stool sample, then we have to add metronidazole along with diloxanide furet. Or sometimes what happens, along with amoebic cyst, we can also get see plenty of pus cells in the stool sample also. So the infection may be due to bacterial infection as well as protozoal infection. In that case, we have to give metronidazole plus diloxanide furet along with antibacterial treatment. For example, we can give ofloxacin or ciprofloxacin along with metronidazole and diloxanide furet to treat the pus cells that is seen in the stool sample. And if the patient is having dehydration along with uh, diarrhea and dysentery, we have to encourage patient to take plenty of oral rehydration solution. We have to advise patient to maintain the proper hygiene. We have to advise patient to wash your hands with soap and water before food and after defecation, and encourage patient to eat the food that's well cooked, and encourage the patient to drink lots and lots of fluid so that patient may not go into the state of dehydration and shock. Okay, so that's it for today's class. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
लगा रे
হবে কলা গাছ সিউবি